Eden here. Welcome home to Eden. Being with me in Amatlan, Mexico is also another form of being in Eden together. You know, Eve's Eden of Bufo, my show has taken a turn. We're not going to leave love and sexuality behind. I really want to find the way that we bring those, bring the magic psychedelic medicine into love and love into the psychedelics. You know, when people talk about Tantra and they act like it can happen, it can be a bunch of actions that you perform without love, they know nothing about Tantra, because the whole nature of real Tantra is real love, real love. So the love of yourself, to undo the harm that's been done, the patterns of repression, the love of yourself, to take a psychedelic journey, whether it's through psilocybin mushrooms or Bufo, or some other way that you find that is safe with good people and real shamans, I really highly recommend. But the thing is, to have shamanic practitioners with you is extraordinarily important. I met a gentleman who is a psychedelic scientist, and it's so exciting, his work, you know, and he has a big heart, and he's an extraordinary musician, but he wanted to just right away start leading Bufo retreats. And I was trying to explain to him that since I took doses that were much too high for me, in other words, being a very sensitive person, I took 50 milligrams when we actually found the dose that is manageable for me, where I can be a normal person afterwards and I could integrate and be part of the experience without feeling like I'm having a psychotic break. My actual dose is 10 milligrams, which is a huge difference from 50. But there's a lot of people in there who are very, very mental, who are not as flowing in their spiritual, emotional, feminine nature, who are more masculine, and they can handle 50, even 70, or sometimes a second round in the middle of their Bufo of another 50 milligrams. And I can't even imagine, because less is more for me. But I was trying to say to him, when I took too much, I got into territory that was so incredibly terrifying and wondrous at the same time. It was not clear to me whether I would ever make it to my body, or if I did, if I would even be a human anymore or a normal person. And what got me back was the shamanism of the leaders. So there were about 5 leaders, and all of them had incredibly delicate skills in soul retrieval, in energetic clearing of blockages, in singing and chanting medicine songs from their hearts, following my journey. They could take a microdose, and they would be able to follow my journey and know where I was in my process. These are all like deeply mystical, spiritual skills of the deep, wild feminine. And if you were to, I was trying to say to him, if you were to like give this medicine to your girlfriend who is an empath like me, and if she were to get to the places I got to, and you had no skills in shamanism to bring her home, to ground her, to sing her back to her body, she could have a psychotic break. She could never make it back. She could have a terrifying experience. It could ruin your relationship, where you know, you're in your linear mind, like looking at your specimen. What are they going through now? With no empathy, not the empathy, because you can't. It's not just empathy. You have to have empathy and the understanding. What is the person going through, and then the skill to help them navigate that terrain of the magical world, of the psyche, of their emotions, of their body. Are they in convulsions that are really just physical? They need to throw up? Do you need to give them a bucket? Do you need to adjust their head so they could breathe? Do they need to move? Do they need to be hugged? Are you with them? Are you responding? Are you hearing what they're trying to say, even though they can't speak? These are deep skills developed over 10, 20 years for people who deeply are either born into the calling of shamanism or really put in the effort to learn so many skills, breathing practices, how to breathe somebody through, how to sing them back, instruments, healing instruments of music that brought me back. Each of these things I'm mentioning, they were each one of those things got me back, got me through different moments where I was traversing a level of being that had that I needed to navigate the high path of the high vibration and not fall into fear, despair, terror, disconnection, disassociation, or what if you're like starting to remember a terrifying lifetime, a past life, and you got to be brought home. You're going to have a rebirth. Does the leader know anything about rebirthing through breath and rebirthing physically, and what the movements of the body mean in terms of what affirmations a person needs when they are rebirthed, when they come back into their body? Do they know how to facilitate a group ritual, a family catharsis healing through the ritual of what happens in the group while the person's in process? So that's where I got really interested, because every single one of my journeys was a ritual I ended up inviting, directing, and they ended up knowing how to facilitate and flow with, so that by the time I finished every single one of my Bufo ceremonies, an actual ritual had been enacted by the group with me that had physicalized this spiritual experience into an embodiment. And that's one of the things I really, really want to encourage you about in your exploration of magical medicines. Make sure there are real shamans there who have years and years of experience of navigating the magical world, of drum journeying, of drumming people back and forth between the worlds, of dream interpretation, of dream travel, of speaking to plants and animals and spirits of the other worlds, of power animals that they have that can protect you and them as they travel between the worlds. You need this, because otherwise, it can turn into just a nightmare experience, traversing the terrors of your psyche or your past or past lives, and there's no one there to allow the flow to break free of those things. You left so alone in it. And the Bufo will take care of you. It will carry you through in the end, I do believe. But I noticed people having sort of mediocre experiences sometimes because they weren't willing to make they weren't willing to make a full commitment to an intention. They got scared of how powerful it is when you do Bufo and you make an intention, and it starts to answer that prayer by making you have to go back to your death, be reborn, so you can start your whole life over. So people started saying, including me, like, oh, maybe I'll just make a goal of like, to have a nice journey and feel like unconditional love. That's fine. The Bufo is going to do that anyway, because that's part of the Bufo, But please, excuse me, make sure that you have real shamans there with you, not just people just witnessing, but real shamans, and that will keep you safe. And don't go thinking that just because you're some kind of scientist or you're a leader type that you should be leading Bufo ceremonies. Okay, and to get shamanic training, you can find indigenous elders, but you can also find gringos now who have studied with indigenous elders and who will give you really in-depth training. And I really recommend Sandra Ingerman and Elliot Cowan of Plant Spirit Medicine. There's many amazing. Robert Moss, who teaches dream work. Yes, and then keep developing as you go your capacity to bring in magical songs, magical music that you can sing to yourself, so that if you're ever in a situation where you feel really far out in the universe on a journey, you can sing yourself home. Okay, I'll be singing you some powwow songs on this channel soon. Okay, much love, darling. Love life.